Y'all thought I was joking, didn't you? So there's a whole internet language that expresses in short little acronyms certain emotions and reactions and responses. People use them as shortcuts because we become too lazy to actually spell the word out, right? So we put in these little acronyms, right? For instance, most of us know what LOL means, right? Laughing out loud, right? And this one I use BTW, which stands for by the way. I like this one TTFN, which stands for ta-ta for now. I found a new one that made me LOL, however. WCU, WTELANIGTK, WTM, which stands for who came up with those 11-letter acronyms? Nobody's going to know what they mean. So my talk, as you could see, is the acronym WTF. And I'm willing to bet most of you think you know what it stands for. But for those of you who don't automatically know what you think it stands for, I guess the Sunday polite way of putting it would be, what the hell? All right? It's used by people online to express shock or disbelief or dismay or incredulousness. For instance, somebody sends you an email or a text that you don't agree with or you don't understand, and you might respond with a WTF to express your disagreement or your confusion with the message. Except if you're like me, because you know I'm pretty expressive, I have to put a lot of those. Whatever it means that somebody's got a lot of splaining to do. So, we could spend the whole morning talking about that. And it would be interesting, the traditional that. However, I did come up with a couple of other meanings for that acronym that are probably a little better suited for a Sunday morning. So the first alternate acronym I came up with is, what's the fear? What's the fear? Because let's face it, just like Amy's song, sang just like Lucille's wonderful reading, things out there are pretty scary. Things out there are pretty fearful. We have fear about the economy. We have fear about terrorism. We got fear about Ebola. We got a fear about money. We got fear about health. We got fear about the future. And I want to tell you, there is no doubt, none whatsoever, that we had a pretty big scare this week with that shooting in Ottawa. That was scary. Someone intent on terrorizing us managed to do so. And I'm sure that there were a whole lot of Canadians that were going, WTF! This doesn't happen in our country. Right? Yeah. When someone or and it happens in the U.S., unfortunately, you know, that's where I'm from. But, you know, for Canadians, it was like, what the heck is going on? So in situations like that, fear is understandable. In the moment, when someone or something is truly trying to harm us or harm our loved ones, fear is a natural reaction. We have fear because it is a natural reaction. It is a built-in response that causes us to want to get away from something that might harm us or to handle a threat. Now, I don't know about you guys, but there have been times in my life when my life or my lifestyle has been, and there's been a fear behind it, that has acted as a catalyst for me to change something for the better. Anybody else? Has fear ever been a good motivator for you? You betcha. But I'm not talking about that legitimate reason for fear. I'm talking about the made-up fear that all of us experience. For instance, the over-the-top, often unwarranted fear that is caused by the media. Because the truth is, we are exposed to fear and fearful thoughts all the time. The media today absolutely exploits the fear factor. Just like my provocative title today, it is meant to grab your attention and pull you in. For instance, the media all over the U.S. is rabid with fears about Ebola. Even the name strikes fear in the hearts of people. And yes, there's no doubt it is a terrible disease. It is a terrible disease, but we are not having an Ebola epidemic here in North America. We are not. I heard somewhere that more Americans have been married to Kim Kardashian than have died of Ebola. I bet some of you have been married more times than have died of Ebola. And yet the media is going crazy with reporting about something that at this point is not a concern. But they do it to incite, to excite, to get people to watch. Keep us watching for the latest, right? And because we allow ourselves to be deeply influenced by what we see and we hear, we spend a lot of time dealing with the effect of fear. Now, maybe we don't have a direct fear of Ebola or terrorism or economic concerns, but the truth of the matter is, fear is part of our consciousness. It is part of our race consciousness, our consciousness as a people. In other words, we are fearful even if we don't know what we're afraid of. Does that sound right? Yeah. Now maybe your fear isn't from the outside media. Maybe your fear is something closer than that. Maybe you're afraid of the dark because something that happened, years ago. Or maybe your fear is, you're afraid of swimming because you had a scary experience at one time. Or maybe your fear is less physical and more emotional. Maybe your fear involves fear of failure or fear of success. They're the same thing, you understand? Fear of failure and fear of success. Maybe you're afraid of being in an intimate relationship for fear of being hurt. Whatever the fear is, the question becomes, is it keeping you from living fully? Is it keeping you from moving your life forward? Madame Curie said this: nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Because once we understand something, then we know how our response should be. Does that make sense to you? Can I get an amen to that? Yeah. In fact, did you know that the vast majority of the things that you worry about never come about? They did a study once of 100 people, and it was over 10 years, and it was scientifically proven that 98% of the things that we worry about never come about. 98% of the things we're freaking out about are not even in the realm of possibility. The test also shows that we spend 37% of our waking hours being consumed with our worries and our fears. And the vast majority of them aren't even real. We made them up in our minds, out of ignorance, out of old thoughts, out of mistaken ideas, or from the race consciousness hysteria that is all around us. And yet, as Napoleon Hill said, fears are nothing more than a state of mind. thoughts that we may have is understanding them, just like Madame Curie said. Understanding them and then hopefully changing our minds about them. Because, ladies and gentlemen, for the most part, we made them up in our minds to begin with. It's a state of mind. So how do we do that? How do we switch it? How do we switch it? We do it by changing our minds from fear to its exact opposite, which is faith. And that brings me to the second acronym for WTF. Where's the faith? Ernest Holmes tells us that faith and fear are exact opposites of the same thing. Here's the thing, fear, faith. Here, let me show you what he said here. Fear and faith are identical in that the energy used in one is the same energy as that used in the other. Since there is but one final energy in the universe, and this final energy is the energy of thought. Fear is a positive acceptance that you shall experience that which you dislike. Faith is a positive acceptance that you shall experience that which you do like. But they are identical in mental action. The only difference is in the direction. Wow! Wow! That's right! In this case, what I'm talking about is having faith in something that is greater than we are. Something that is working with and supporting us. And it doesn't matter what you call it. Just like our song says. What matters is that you have faith in it. Particularly when you're choosing between fear and faith. Because let's face it, folks, every one of us, you would not be sitting here if this was not the case. Every one of us have had an experience when we have been fearful about something, and then something showed up for us just in the nick of time that brought us out of or saved us from a fearful situation. You know what I'm talking about? It may have been a person showing up just in time. It may have been a situation, a feeling, an answer to a question. Somebody hands you a book and says, here, read this. It may have been an aha. Maybe sitting here on a Sunday morning and hearing something and going, oh, I get it. We have all had situations when we were responding to life with the original WTF attitude, and just when we were at our wits' end, the solution presented itself. The beauty of it is, the more it happens, the more it builds our faith. You understand what I mean by that? The more, for lack of a better word, the more God shows up when we need it, the more faith it builds. So the question is then, how come we forget? Even I forget. I forgot this week. We spend so much of our time frustrated and fearful and wondering, you know, WTF, and we're not into trusting WTF even when we know better. Well, as with anything, developing faith by turning from fear to faith is a process. Or to say it Canadian, it's a process. It takes practice. It takes awareness. It takes being aware of what's going on in our life, how we're responding to things, how we're seeing life. And sometimes it takes going to the side of fear for a little bit And then when we get so tired of feeling fearful that we turn around and decide to walk toward faith instead. They say in the 12-step programs, being sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's what happens. Dale Carnegie wrote a book called How to Win, no, that was How to Win Friends and Influence People, but he wrote another book that was called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Anybody familiar with it? Yeah. He gave a really interesting technique as to how to deal with worry or fear. He said when you are worried or you are fearful about something, allow yourself to go to the worst case scenario. I mean, after all, you're going to do it anyway, right? So give yourself permission to go to the worst case scenario. And when you've pondered that worst case scenario, accept it as a possibility. Okay, this could happen. Because he said once you have accepted the possibility of the worst thing happening, you begin to work your way toward its opposite, turning from fear to faith. Now this may not be strict science of mind. Don't tell my colleagues, okay? Because in science of mind, we're taught to turn immediately away from the problem. And I do a lot, but sometimes, you know, that fear thing is really there. So why not go there, be in it, and say, this feels lousy. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to start walking my way toward faith. We're going to go like this. See, I did deal with this week. If we accept the worst, temporarily, say that word with me, temporarily, it gives us the picture of what we don't want, which then allows us to choose the mental equivalent, the ME, the mental picture of what we do want. In other words, when we look fear in the face, and then we consciously start to build a new idea of its opposite, we begin to create it. We begin to move from fear to faith. And it all starts with remembering what we know. That we are in partnership with something that is far greater than we are, far more powerful than the thing that we fear. Ernest Holmes put it this way. He said, the quickest and most effective method of getting rid of fear is to get quiet and lift up the whole thought in confidence and faith to something bigger than we are. It is like going from a cold, dark room into the sunshine and just sitting there, letting the rays of sun penetrate the whole being with warmth and color, until the darkness and the dampness are gone. So just for a moment, think about something that you are fearful about and feel that you are in that damp, cold, dark room. And now, in your mind's eye, go outside and sit in the sun, letting that faith take over. And allow the sun's rays to warm you and to warm that situation. Can you feel it? Albert Einstein said, the most important decision you will ever make is to decide that the universe is a friendly place. When we have faith, when we know, when we trust that the universe is a friendly place, we are in partnership with it, then we can relax. Let me give you a little example. It's a funny example for me. I was in a yoga class a few years ago, and the instructor was having us do a semi-scary pose that involved a lot of balance and strength. I can't remember what the pose was, don't ask me to do it. But something, right? But she had, because it was kind of scary, and we weren't real experienced yogis, she had us pair off with another person. And the person was supposed to stand next to us just to lend us support in case we needed it. They weren't there to help us get into the pose, but to simply be there as a support in case we lost our balance. Well, as she explained it, it was much easier to do something difficult or fearful when we know that we have something or someone who is there to support us. It gives us faith. Well, sure enough, here I've got this partner. She didn't even touch me. But knowing that she was there gave me the faith and the confidence that I needed to attempt that pose. And not only did I attempt it, I did it. And I held it longer than I ever thought I could. And while it was happening, I'm sure that I may have been thinking WTF, but it was the where's the faith variety instead. Because I've developed through the years this spiritual reliance on spirit, this faith. So it's there when I need it. Now, I'm not saying this is an overnight process. It's a start, but it's not an overnight process. We've been exposed to the fear factor for a really long time. Let me ask you a question. Here in Canada, those people who are about my age, how many of you had to hide under your desks in case of a nuclear war? Was that just in the U.S.? Okay, you know what? Is there nobody else my age? I love Canada. You didn't have that fear. You weren't in the Cold War, were you? You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? Gee whiz, I love it. Well, we did. When I was 6 years old, we had to be taught to get underneath our desks in case the Russians came. Seriously, it started at a very young age. So I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight. But we don't have to live in fear. Say that to me. I don't have to live in fear. I don't have to live in fear. Say this with me. My divine birthright is happiness and wholeness, success and health, love and joy. That is something we can have faith in. And so it is.